Hecho en México, vuestros baños. Hi, I'm Brett Mauser, and welcome to What Went Wrong. Today we're going to talk about why subtitles matter. This was a topic that you had actually experienced within your eclectic taste of films and whatnot. Yes. And now I've experienced this a lot back in my John Woo days when I was just getting to know John Woo.
Yay, John Woo.
But as a filmmaker.
I know what you're saying.
I would have to. The story goes is I was working Blockbuster at that time, and one night the assistant manager came up and he said, "Hey, Brett." "Hey, Rich, what?" "The new John Woo movie came in." And I was like, "Great. Who's John Woo?" He said, "You don't know John Woo?" So he gave me Hard Boiled and he gave me The Killer. He said, "You go watch these." So I was living in an apartment complex in Austin at that time. Went across in the same complex. A couple buddies of mine were there, and I went up, knocked on the door, and I knew that they loved Japanese films, anime, things like that. Right. So I was like, yeah. I'm gonna be the hero. I'm gonna bring in the new John Woo movie. Knocked on the door. Trey answered. I said, "Hey, I got the new John Woo movie." He said, "Great. Who's John Woo?" I said, "I don't know. We're going to find out."
Everyone's very excited for some reason, so I'm joining them.
So we put in Hard Boiled. This is my first experience with John Woo.
That was mine too. Yeah.
Watch that movie, and the tea house scene happens. Mm-hmm. And more people died in that first 5 minutes than the last 3 Arnold Schwarzenegger movies combined.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know what I want to do for a living.
Not only did a bunch of people die, but the shots were minutes long. Mm-hmm. And the amount of things that were happening, and the amount of camera work, and the amount of special effects, and blood effects, and visual effects, and all the stuff that was going on was... Actually, you showed me, I came to your place, probably not long after that happened. And you're like, "We're going to watch the new John Woo movie." And I'm like, "Great. Who's John Woo?" Because I didn't, And we sat down. Hard Boiled was the first thing we watched. And that first tea out. You're like, but of course, the problem was watching it with you is you like to talk about, watch this and see how it does this. We watched it and then we stopped and we went back. And I go, I don't care. It was awesome. And we watched and you were showing, okay, check out this shot now. See how this long shot. And so I watched the movie, I guess, like a film student would watch a movie, and was completely impressed. I mean, of course, they're good movies anyway, if you like action, adventure, and just the most convoluted, Asian plots, so they're convoluted and as complicated as can be. But it was amazing. And I didn't find out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, but I did find out what I'm going to be putting up with the rest of my life if I'm hanging out with you. And it was one of those things. Yeah.
So that launched me into wanting to see more of John Woo's films and the Chinese cinema, and that was when I started learning. Oh, well, this is why you can't get movies like this. That was about the time that John Woo had Hard Target come out. Mm-hmm. And then I'd heard about the infamous director's cut, because you watch a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, Hard Target, it's like, okay, it's a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. But if you watch the director's cut, and this was even before the eBay, I still don't know how the hell I found it, but this was really before internet, and I still managed to get my hands on it.
This was back in early mid-90s.
Yeah, I was able to get my hands on a copy of the director's cut of Hard Target, and it was a completely different movie. Yeah. It was just phenomenal. So the problem was you'd have maybe a Hard Boiled and The Killer, and then there was a couple of, like a French film, Man Bites Dog, and that was starting to introduce me to this different type of filmmaking. And
Jackie Chan was a big one that I used to watch.
Yes, and it was
Super
there were only a couple that you were able to get at the Blockbuster or these other stores, because they weren't licensed in the States.
United States, yeah.
So I had found, and again, I don't remember how, it was through the whispers, but I had found a Chinese laundry in Chinatown in Austin. Yes, there is a Chinatown in Austin.
There is.
And you had to go into the back room where they had all these VHS tapes labeled with just a single little white label that just had the name of the movie on it, and you could rent those. So that is so I guess I was illegal. I felt. I mean, that's the way it felt. You felt like you were going into a crack house or something. But I was like, oh, I'm going to get to see Chow Yun-fat, movies you can't get here. God of Gamblers and films like that. A Bullet in the Head, Better Tomorrow. These great films. And those were the original ones that they were directly from China. So they were spoken in Mandarin or Cantonese, depending. And then down at the bottom, if it was Cantonese, it would be subtitled in Mandarin and English. And the translations were usually not that great, but I could still figure out what's going on. And of course, through context, you could figure it out.
The translations, I remember I used to get things from Hong Kong every now and again and be like, it doesn't make any, I used to get a Miyazaki movies, and I got a couple of Japanese war movies, and I'm definitely like, don't think that's exactly what he's trying to say. We used to call English, is the weird things they would. Because I swear to God, they would sit down with.
It's like reading instructions on how to put together a bookshelf.
Right. Well, it was. You'd swear to God that the guy sat down with Google Translate and typed in there whatever, and then just whatever popped out was what they just put into the thing. Because there are times you're like, what does that even? That's not even.
Where's birdcage? What birdcage?
It's like, the dog is in the sky. I'm like, what? The dog is in the sky. What the hell does that even mean? And it just the translations didn't work out very well. Yeah. But so it was definitely an interesting time to watch those movies.
But I will say that the majority of those you could understand, but they were so poetic. Though even the English subtitles that were that way still managed to be beautiful sonnets. I mean, there's incredible poetry. And then I would go and I would rent the dubbed version. And the Killer was one I really remember because I had the dubbed version of it, and then I had the Chinese version, and then I think somewhere along the way they eventually had like a director's cut on DVD or something, and it was in the Cantonese, but then the English subtitles, and the differences between all three. Of course, the visuals of Killer are terrific, but some of the things that Chow Yun-fat's character of shall we say Mickey Mouse. No, Mickey Mouse was the cop, I think.
Yeah.
Dumbo was the other one. I think it was Dumbo.
It's been so long, I don't remember now.
It's just, it added something so much to it when you were reading those English subtitles that were done in China, as opposed to either the English dub or just the English subtitle versions were dumbed down and weren't as creative or meaningful as the original translations. There was just so much more colorful, flowery language. So, as an independent filmmaker, there's this new, especially with all the ways of distribution now. If you're getting on Netflix or Amazon or what have you, a lot of places require you to have subtitles or closed captioning. So when I'm doing a project through Amazon, I have to have closed captions. Right? So I have to have it subtitled. And in the early films, not the early films, but the early Amazon films like Blow a Kiss, Sierra Rabbit, 3 and 5. I think 5 was the last one that I actually subtitled it myself. And I would have to go into Premiere and create the subtitles and then render out a subtitle file. So I would have to actually pause, type it in, start a new subtitle, play, listen to the line, type in the line, create a new subtitle. Every time one of those subtitles pops up, I had to create a new one and put it on. Well, especially in Blow a Kiss. If you go and you watch Blow a Kiss on Amazon, you can see that I start getting bored and I start getting frustrated because there's the big action scene, and now I'm just putting in, I'm counting how many times she fires the revolver. It's like 6. Oh, look, she's out. This is all popping up, but you don't see this stuff unless you watch it on there. And then in Sierra Rabbit 5, it's definitely Sierra Rabbit 5. If you watch with subtitles, the rabbit is subtitled.
Oh, no.
So you can see what the rabbit is saying. So especially in that scene with Johanna when they're in their bed together, and he's arguing and you know, debating with her about whether she should kill him or not. In the movie, he's just pantomiming the whole thing. Well, if you turn the subtitles on, you see what he's saying.
Yeah.
So there was that was fun. But in order to get Amazon now, you have to have it subtitled. Whereas when originally you didn't. If you had it, it was great. If not, that's fine. Same thing with Netflix. Used to be that way.
Right.
Now, if you go on, you distribute through Amazon, you've got to have your subtitles. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, and we kind of cutting the grass, which we've talked before. You can do it, but you don't. Your time is more valuable than that. My time is more valuable than that. So there are sites, and the one I use is rev.com. They will do it for you for $1 a minute.
Oh.
So it's not that bad. I think it's actually they increased the price a little bit recently. But still, if you got a 90-minute movie, that's $90. You just saved 2 days of sitting there and typing.
Yeah,
To me, that's worth it.
That's worth it. It would be worth it to me too, because my time is worth a lot more than $1 a minute.
Yeah. So now, if you go to Amazon and you just go straight to Amazon and you do their video on demand thing, you have 4 different options. You can be in the U.S., you can be in the United Kingdom, Germany, or Japan. Now, I know there's Amazon everywhere else, but in order to do that, you've got to go through a company called Film Hub or another aggregate that will do that, which I do. But just going in and doing it yourself, you have those 4 options. Right. So having subtitle in English, I'm good, and I can get into UK and America. I used to have films in Germany and Japan as well, but then all of a sudden they started you required to have subtitles. And a little side note here, this is where people who love regulation need to sit down and shut the fuck up.
Right.
In terms of you thinking that you're protecting people, or you're doing this or you're doing that, and it's going to stick it to the big guys. No, you're hurting people like me, because the reason you have to subtitle now it's not law. However, it might as well be, because of the ADA. Netflix did not have a lot of their stuff subtitled, or maybe it was one thing that wasn't subtitled. Who knows? But somebody sued them, and they had to start subtitling everything. So once Netflix got sued, then Amazon said, "Oh, we're not going to go through that." So everybody requires subtitles now. Closed caption. Sorry, there is a difference between subtitles and closed caption.
Right.
So now, the major studios take care of it. They're just writing checks, no problem.
Yeah.
Now here you got me, where I used to be able to get into Japan and Germany without any problem. Now, if I want to get into Germany or Japan, it's not $1 a minute, because now that's not subtitles, that's translating to another language.
Yeah.
Now you're talking $7 to $8 a minute.
Not worth it anymore.
And at that point, I'm like, I can't even afford that. Are you kidding me? That's more than I spent on the whole damn movie.
Right.
So
that's how the Germans are having to go to the back of the Chinese laundry to find Cedar Rabbit 5.
So subtitles are important. I get it. But now, if you want to be on Netflix, they require the list of delivery requirements from Netflix is ridiculous now. You have to have something like 63 languages.
What?
Or they're not going to touch it. And if you think you're going to be doing like what you did with Amazon, that you're going to do that with Netflix, you're not. The little guy is not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And Netflix isn't going to deal with the little guy anyway. They have a few different companies here and there that they will deal with, because they know how to deliver the requirements, and they know how to. They have their 30-page book of delivery requirements. We need this, in this format, and that, and they've got a few companies that they deal with. Everybody else they don't want to deal with because they're going to have to start a new company and do all the paperwork with that. I'm sure Denise can talk about all the whole paperwork nightmare that is. And then
the lawyers make a lot of money, but nobody else does.
Yeah. And then they have to see, and then Netflix has to see, well, did they get it to us in the right format? Did they get us all the right languages? At least with these 5 or 6 known companies, okay, whatever they're delivering, we know that they're going to deliver the right stuff. So it's a complete and utter nightmare and disaster. So if you're in those other countries, you know, you can go to notsosane.com in those other countries because you're not blocked. They don't have you geo-blocked. So you can watch all of our movies in every country of the world that has it, but only on our site because we don't, but you're not going to know what they're saying because we're not going to subtitle it for you. But it is expensive. Now, so yeah, take that $7 or $8 a minute of a 90-minute movie, or just round it up to 100 minutes. Now you're talking $700 to $800 a minute, or $700 or $800 a movie for each language. Now you got 63 languages that you got to do that in. So just rounding up to $1,000, you're looking at $50,000 to $60,000 in getting your movie subtitled so that it can go on Netflix.
Yeah.
So that you can make $1,000, or whatever. Where's the sense in that?
No, it's not.
So, getting back to, not getting back to the subject at hand, but
that is
narrowing it down to subtitles. As an independent filmmaker, you need to be aware of that's what's going to happen. That's what you have to deal with. So when you have that, of course, the biggest question you get, that I get is, how do you get on Netflix? You don't.
You don't.
Sorry, but you don't. You're gonna have to go through these other companies and they're gonna decide whether they want to distribute it or not. And then now you can maybe get into the Netflix office and make a pitch, and they may say, yeah, we'll be interested in it. Talk to these guys, and they'll be able to let you know. And then you got to talk to them. But getting into the office and getting them to pitch it, it's because they're only going to deal with people that they've dealt with before,
right.
People with a track record. That's the other thing. If you think your first movie is going to go anywhere, no. Because nobody's, you may have a great film, but who's going to watch it? Because you don't have a track record. No one's ever heard of you.
Right.
So you've got to go out there and you got to do it yourself and bring up that publicity so that you can come in there. So, I can go to a company and at least have something behind me that says, hey, look, Lady Lawman did this on Amazon.
Right.
And, compared to The Irishman, it may not be that great. But when they look at, this was a $10,000 movie and they got how many views? And it's 3-star rating? He might be worth a little bit of a risk.
Yeah.
But if I had to do it all myself, I can't because I'm not spending $50,000 to get it subtitled so that Netflix will have it. It's more than 5 of my movies.
Right.
So what's the point?
There's not.
So what do you say to those other countries? I can't afford to subtitle it. What do you say to the countries?
You say go to www.notsosane.com
and learn English.
Fucking try to hang. I mean, some of the stuff.
It's a movie about a guy in a bunny rabbit outfit. What do you need to hear?
I wasn't going to go. I wasn't going to go there myself, but yeah, I have watched movies. A movie that I loved, that I still love, is Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind. It's a Japanese movie. It's a Miyazaki film. First came out in '83 or '84, I think it was, and it was turned into a movie called Warriors of the Wind, but it kind of changed the movie. And I've gotten back to the original of what it was, but the first copy I ever got, I got from Japan, and so I got the movie and I put it in, and everything's in Japanese. And the instruction, the page that pops up with everything, it's all in Japanese. And the how to do anything, it's in Japanese. It's all Japanese. I have no idea. And so I spent a good day or two just trying to figure out how to start the stupid movie. And then I spent a day or two trying to figure out how to get the subtitles on. But when I finally figured out how to just get it started, okay, I watched it in Japanese. I don't speak Japanese. I do German, but I don't speak Japanese. But I watched that movie in Japanese, no subtitles, and it was still beautiful. It was still gorgeous, and I still, knowing enough about the original, about what it was supposed to be going. I mean, I watched the movie and I knew what was happening. Okay, but had I, and of course because I loved it, but had I given it to somebody else and said, "Here, come watch this with me," they would have been like, "The hell is going on?" And I could have talked through the whole movie to tell them, "Okay, well, this is happening, that's happening, this is because of that." That's not enjoyable unless you already enjoy the genre. And had someone sat me down in front of that movie when I first saw it and just had this thing playing and everyone, and hollering in Japanese. If you ever watch a Japanese movie, you understand that the way they do their characters is very dramatic. They have little tropes they use. You have the heroine, and you have the loud screaming guy, and then you have the dark horse, and then you have the bad guy, and then the bad guy's goofy sidekick. They have this kind of like these tropes they go through, and you can kind of identify them. But if you don't appreciate that, it just sounds like it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, but you have no idea what the hell's going on. There's no way to intrinsically really know what's going on. So the subtitles mean a lot. Now, finally, I got it figured out to where I could watch it with the subtitles, and then more recently, within the past couple of years, I've actually gotten Disney redubbed one. And they give you, like Patrick Stewart plays one of the characters, and Uma Thurman plays one of the characters, and they do their voice acting. But you can still play it in Japanese, and you can have it with American subtitles or Japanese subtitles. And that opens up a whole bunch of different ideas, because you can watch it with the American subtitles and the Japanese, or you can watch it with the American voices and the Japanese subtitles, and that's a whole different. You're watching two different movies at once. Okay, but it matters. It still means something because, yes, you can see the beauty in a movie, and I have watched movies that have no words. Okay, but they're designed to tell a story without having words. This movie was not designed to tell a story without, and so the subtitles matter because it is how the story is told cross-culturally, to be able to tell you this beautiful story of what's going on. And so I realize that it's expensive to get the subtitles done, and it's a pain in the butt, and sometimes it's not worth it. And I fully understand and appreciate that. And then you can also say, if you have watched the movie, I watch a bunch of Japanese foreign films. I like foreign films, some of them. And that's one of the things I do like to do is the American or the American words and the foreign language subtitles, because you're watching two different movies. And so that was kind of, I guess, my introduction to how confusing it could be to watch a movie that you don't know the language and try to pick up what's going on. And I've done that. One of my favorite movies, Yamato, is in Japanese. It's a Japanese movie. The whole thing's in Japanese. And I've watched it with the subtitles, and there is no translation. I mean, it's just, you have to read it. Otherwise, it is quite confusing as to what the heck is going on. But the movie is still gorgeous, and I guess that's what I like about it, is you get to see, especially in Japan, because Japan is so bad crazy as it is, you get to see their version of what a war movie is, and even though it is, and we get into the whole cultural thing about the Japanese concept of what a defeat means and how to face death, and there's a lot of that in some of these movies about how to be, the way to be a man for them is to stand bravely in the face of danger and death, and there's this whole big trope on that. But to be able to understand what's going on makes it a lot easier to appreciate the film. So yeah, subtitles are expensive, and they're not worth it in certain cases, but when you do have them, they do make the difference in the movie.
Now, as now that's something that you can say that I noticed throughout you're talking about culturally. It's very interesting you bring that point up. Is yes, we talked about it already that it's more flowery, more literate. I guess you could say.
In a way, it's more descriptive, really. American English. I mean, this is a different concept if you want to, because me knowing German and having watched the Germans try to understand English and how it's so complicated for them, because our language is both utilitarian and yet very colloquial, and so we use a lot of words that don't make any sense. because of the mishmash of our language. And that's a separate concept altogether. But it is difficult for the Germans to understand certain things. And of course, difficult for me to understand some of the things culturally with the Germans, which I had to learn in order for some of the stuff they said to make any sense.
Yeah, and I think that says something about the different audiences too, because with so much dialogue, foreign films can run slower than American films, and American films, it's that impatient American. I want to get to the meat here, get to it, get done.
Get to it, get done.
Whereas my films I can actually say do better in Europe and get higher ratings.
Yeah.
Because I'm not trying to cater to, in America, I'm not always trying to cater to the American audience. I'm just trying to tell my story. And my stories and my style is a little bit more, in that vein of more flowery, more talking.
And a lot of it, like you see the Japanese movies that have been turned into, or the American movies that have come from Japanese, The Ring and the Grudge, that were Japanese horror tropes, and if you also know the some of the Japanese horror things, like we have the Boogeyman, which is even from somewhere else, and of course there's Baba Yaga, which is from the Eastern Europe. So a lot of our stuff is from other places. The Tall Man. Of course, vampires and everything else like that. Well, the Japanese have their own, like the cut face woman, the cut mouth woman. She's got the things, and of course you've got the ringu, which is you got the girl with the hair all down like that, and the kami and the different kind of stuff, and the omi. And those are cultural that are familiar enough. We can look at that and go, okay, that's scary. We understand it's supposed to be scary, but we may not understand the cultural significance of what that means. I mean, what is the cut mouth woman going to do? I mean, I watched one thing one time. This one, I think it may have been. It doesn't matter what it was, but this girl is the little girl's talking to somebody else, and the little girl's scared of monsters, and the woman says, "Oh, you're fine. This is because the monsters. What kind of monster was it? Oh, it's this thing. Oh, that sounds like so and so. You're fine because it only kills." Men who do this other thing. Who does this? Are you an old man who does that? She's like, no, well, you're fine. The whole idea of what the monsters are. So culturally speaking, we may understand that. But still, you see the nightmarish figure of a woman with her face cut to here like the Joker mouth. She's like, we get the idea. But the movie in which you may find that trope, you may not be, because it'll be slow, it'll be the slow burn, it'll be the scarier stuff. So you may be waiting for the jump scare, which we've talked about, and other stuff like that. And you're never going to get it because that's not the kind of movie you're watching. So you may think the movie is not very scary, not very good. What you don't understand is, culturally speaking, it's exceptionally scary because you have to know what you're actually watching. We watch Jason and we know that he's going to, he's got coming at you with a machete. Okay. Well, then when they watch an Omi, well, they know what it's going to do. When they watch this other character, they know what that's going to do. The Shigenatsu, they know what that's going to do. And so it's culturally speaking for them, for them to see certain things happening where they realize what's about to happen. That's part of the horror film that you may not get because you don't understand what it is.
So don't be afraid. If you're the viewing audience, don't be afraid to don't run away from a film because it's a foreign film and you're worried about subtitles. Because you're missing out on a lot. And
subtitles matter, but they're not everything.
Yeah, and to close out on one of my favorite quotes from or moments from Cheers, when one of Sam's girlfriends was asked, "Hey, we want to go see that foreign. Do you want to go see that?" That new foreign film. I hear it's an Australian film coming down. Her saying, I don't want to read all the subtitles.